So if you're working on playing blues licks over a steady bass and it doesn't sound that great, the problem might not be the licks themselves. It might be the underlying groove, or even the lack of an underlying groove. So in this lesson, I want to show you one simple way to improve your groove right away. And the great thing is, this is not that hard to do. And once you fix your groove, even the simplest licks will sound way better. All right, so this is not a complicated idea. And I've actually even talked about this elsewhere in a series called 6 Steps to Playing Fingerstyle Blues, which I will post a link to down below. But it's worth coming back to because it's a really foundational idea, really helpful, really makes everything sound better. So what I'm talking about is when you're playing steady bass, right, the basic underlying groove for so much of this kind of playing, you're playing quarter notes on the downbeat with your thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Now, the pulse of this kind of music is generally a shuffle or something with a swing eighths feel. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And when you're playing licks on top, you hear that sound. Right? The licks are providing that subdivision, that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and, right? But if you play licks in this kind of call and response way where you're leaving some space in between because you're a smart, tasteful kind of person, and then you're leaving some space, well, there's this thing that happens where when you're not playing the licks, all you're hearing is the bass. And so you're not continuing to get that pulse, right? Because you're just hearing the downbeats. So the simple fix for this is just to bring in the index finger on this root, this E note here on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, whenever you're not playing licks, so that you have some groove in between the licks. And so the groove is just that same 1 and 2 and kind of pulse, but the index finger is playing the ands on the 4th string. So you get this feeling of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's actually the foundation of everything you're going to do. And you can start off with that groove, and you can depart from it. So that every time you leave space, the groove comes in to kind of keep things moving. So in this case, I'm just playing a measure of the groove, and then I'm playing some 1 measure licks that start kind of inside the downbeat, like on 1 or on the end of 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2. Licks in a row, and then followed again by the groove. So that's it. Just having that groove element in place means that whether you're playing licks or not, you can continue to communicate that pulse. And so it will feel like everything is continuing to move and have this momentum and have this forward motion whether you're playing licks or not. And when you think of it from the ground up, from the groove first, then you also play more tastefully, because you don't feel like you have to play licks to fill up space or to communicate the pulse. You know that the groove is always there waiting for you when you're done playing licks. So it kind of makes it easier to play with more space, because this pulse is happening almost in the background. And so no matter what you play, there's always that pulse just cooking away in the background. So that's it, really. Short lesson, because it's a really simple concept, but it can make a huge difference in your playing. And if you're one of those people who is always wondering, like, well, how do I improve my picking hand coordination? You know, what's going on between my thumb and my fingers? Just starting with that groove and getting that shuffle feel built into the way that you play will do a lot for all that coordination and for knowing where the licks go and what you need to do with them. So obviously, groove is really important, but not just for its own sake, it's also the foundation for improvising. If you're working on learning to improvise or want to start being able to make stuff up and play stuff on your own, ironically, groove, which seems so basic and fundamental, goes hand in hand with improvisation, which seems kind of advanced and complicated. But in fact, the two things go together, and you do not have to play super complicated stuff to get started as an improviser. So in fact, this month in my membership, the Fingerstyle 5, the focus is entirely on these fundamentals of improvisation, of just getting started as an improviser. And we're looking at both improvisation and groove. So if this is something you'd like to learn more about, I encourage you to check out the Fingerstyle 5, my monthly membership. You can find out more over at fretboardconfidential.com. If you've got a question or comment about today's lesson, please leave it down below. I would love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.